back to Starbucks. Welcome back to Starbucks. Welcome back to Squawk Box. We're talking about Starbucks.
Let's hope that never happens to you. You know.
Well, that never happens to me.
Yeah.
You mean that I'm
those
saying,
are your words.
Welcome back to
or
Starbucks.
Would you like
I'm working at Starbucks? I'd be happy to wear the green.
Yeah,
apron.
sure. Would you like a Happy Meal with that? That's not what you, that's not in your
welcome
future.
Back to
Not
Squawk
that there's
Box
anything wrong with
about
people,
Starbucks. The shares, though, getting crushed. I mean, just hammered this week after the company announced its worst quarterly performance since the pandemic. And I mean, I think it's probably the worst quarter these folks have ever announced in their history. It's the third consecutive guidance cut now. Joining us to discuss the management issues at play for the company's CEO. Let's talk to adjunct economics lecturer at Williams & Mary, Peter Atwater. He's a behavioral economist and author of The Confidence Map. Good morning to you. Peter, I mean, this is going to be a challenge for this company to get back on its feet in a meaningful way. And I think the question is, can they do it? And frankly, how much time do they have to do it before an activist shows up on the doorstep?
Yeah, so Steve Laxman was talking about time and pressure. And I would say that Mr. Narasimhan has very little time and enormous pressure. He comes in after a cultish boomerang CEO, which is a difficult challenge to begin with. And more than that, he is an accelerator, not a turnaround guy. And the challenge with that is he's arriving into an organization that looks like Diana Ross and the Supremes. With all due respect to the folks on the leadership team, they have been backup singers to Mr. Schultz. And so the challenge for the company in this is that they have uncertainty and powerlessness up and down the organization, and now with shareholders, customers, suppliers. And so what he has to do is to go back to the basics. And it's not clear to me that he is a crisis leader in the context of those that have the skills to navigate an environment of powerlessness and uncertainty effectively.
Okay, but the flip side is, do you think an activist could actually show up? And the question is, what would an activist do? Because this is not a traditional financial engineering proposition. I mean, I could see people deciding that they want to, spin off the China operations, sort of Yum style or something. But that's just rearranging the deck chairs, I think. This is actually an operations story. I mean, I think, unfortunately, too many customers have gone to the various stores, especially in places like New York, where just the experience is not what it needs to be. And that's going to cost the company money.
Yeah, and the company has to decide, are they an experience brand or a product brand? And right now they look like Panera and Pret-a-Manger all merged together. They're trying to do two things that are in conflict with each other. So I agree with you. This is an operations. This is a down in the ground kind of turnaround that has to start with the basics, not from the top down. This is a bottoms up return. I do think this would be an ideal candidate for a turnaround activist, somebody like a Bill Ackman, who's all about the operations. The question is this at a point that's yet attractive? I don't think.
But and then who is your magician who is the magician who's going to run this company? And there's something to be said about the fact that for some reason, this company seems to only work really well when Howard Schultz is running it.
Yeah, and that is the problem. It's a problem with the board who've been complicit in that now, bringing him back over and over. I think that if you're going to look internally, you want to find the leader who has the greatest social capital, for whom people will rally around, who is open to news, who knows the organization from the bottom up, who's been on the ground from the beginning. Now, having said that, if it's me, I'm looking at somebody who's at Chipotle, who's demonstrated how to do food logistics extraordinarily well, and who's navigated this tension between to go and dine in.
But what do you think Starbucks should be? I mean, I think that is also part of the question, because the experience has fundamentally changed. It used to be, and Howard used to talk about it being this third place where you would go and it would be experiential. You would talk to the baristas behind the counter. There was this remarkable interaction at its peak, when Starbucks was at its best. Today, for the most part, at least for me, you're either going through a drive-through or you're ordering on the app. You're walking in. unfortunately, sometimes we were still waiting online, and then you're picking up the food, oftentimes with very little physical interaction or conversation with anybody. And then the lines are long. The stores aren't always as clean as they should be. And, you know, there's obviously a product mix question, but I think it's about something even else. And people talk about the soul, the core of this company. What is it supposed to be?
Yeah, I think they have to choose. Are they an experienced brand? Is their job to serve, or is their job to produce and you pick up? It's a question of control. It's a question of who's got it. It's a question of certainty. And Andrew, I wouldn't underestimate their challenge. As confidence falls, we become naturally more impatient. So those lines really matter because they now feel endless. And that is a problem for that brand.
Would you bring Howard back?
No, absolutely not. No, the problem with the boomerang CEO is you keep bringing them back. And it's like bringing back a star musician. They were great for a time, but culture changes. And you need to have a leader who is for the future, not bringing the past. I see the same issue with Disney. These boomerang CEOs who never leave the stage is creating a intense fragility inside their organizations.